So welcome in everyone to the 105th live
Fifth?
stream. I had to use math in my head. That
Wow.
104 plus 1 equals 105. Blows your minds, I know.
It's
Man.
we're just old dinosaurs now.
So welcome everyone. We're here again, still. Craziness, I know.
Still kicking.
Today we have the ever lovely Alley Claw.
Oh, thank you. Yes, hello.
And you should have all been provided lint rollers because we have Fluffy's eye. And me. Hi, I'm me.
The ever amazing living dead. Let's just puff him up, feed his ego. The best dude. He's the best guy. The best buddy pal friend.
Ego rubs. Hold on. I just got. Oh, good. I record this. I can now play it back to put me to sleep.
Because that's exactly. You just make it your ringtone. Me just complimenting you.
He's the best. He's the best. Your phone's going off again, living.
Oh, jeez.
Are you just phoning yourself? Yeah, I am.
Just give me a moment. Let it play. So, welcome to the draw stream.
Yeah.
Yay.
We got a very few pictures, so I'm gonna start you all off because no one reads that text that's gone. There it is. If anyone has art they'd like to submit, please submit it. This is how we critique your art. We don't have the ability to know that you want art critiqued without it coming to us. So please submit it.
It'd be cool if we had powers like Sunset Shimmer. She'd know. She'd tell us.
I think Allie would have just basically just run off with her, been like, mine, my
angel. Listen,
second waifu.
There's a beach episode coming out, and I'm really excited. Okay.
Whoa, spoilers.
Oh, shush. Push your shush.
Hi, Ravioli. Hey, you know what? We have your picture right here. We're gonna do your picture because you're here with us.
What a crazy coincidence.
Whoa! Meet a person in a place like this. It's where.
Who comes here? Who even does that?
Fluffy's
Who shows
eye.
up?
What?
Yeah.
What did I do?
You
Things.
showed up.
I can do things.
Well, that's good. How about you critique this entire picture then? I'm gonna go, I don't know, make a sandwich?
No.
Sit back, drink some hot cocoa. It'll be great.
I want hot cocoa. I have coffee crisp hot cocoa.
Is it this one, the Rainbow Dash, I assume?
It's not a rainbow dash, no wings.
Okay. Oh, it's true. That's right.
My guess would be OC. Correct me
Yes.
if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna go OC.
I think so too. If not, then third guess is background pony.
Just a random horse. Earth ponies are the best random
Yeah.
horses.
They really are.
Yeah,
They try the hardest.
I am the randomest of horses. Ali, that's rude.
How is that rude?
I'm in
They
a
try the
pro.
hardest.
They tried so
Implying
hard.
that we need to make up for lack of anything else. I knew I didn't have a horn. Drawing with a mouth is hard, okay?
Alright, we got our layers. Let's get our ink on here. So first of all, you got any questions for us? And is it ravioli? Is that how we're pronouncing your name?
Ravioli, ravioli, bring me
Drawing with a mouth is hard, but drawing without your tablet even plugged in is even harder. Boop, boop.
Okay, I was trying for the longest time to get my mouse to move, and like I was staring at Living Dead's mouse on the live stream. I'm like, why is my mouse cursor not moving? And I did that for about like a minute.
That amused the zombie.
Listen, I have to get my jollies off somewhere, and it is laughing at other people's misfortunes.
How do I reset my accidentally
I'm just
rotated
happy
the
to be of
canvas?
service
Help.
to you, Zamzam.
That's good.
Controlling that. Okay. Let's have a look. I'm constantly caught in a cycle between lost my mouse. How do I zoom in again? Oh snap! I rotated the canvas by accident.
Oh,
And
hey,
then it
it's
just
wanna
starts
draw.
over again.
Wanna
I
draw?
wanna draw.
Okay, hold on. Wanna draw?
We were talking about you,
You're listening, right?
hopefully.
Because you're our hero. We went onto the
Yes.
subreddit today and went, oh my god, someone critiqued nearly everything. Then there's like clapping and unbelief and
And there was
just
that post about shy artists, and I was just like, this is so heartwarming and beautiful.
the best. Best.
So shout out to Wanna Draw for being a sweet angel this week.
You should hang out with Plum. Problem solved, right? They're both friends.
Totally.
And all French
should
people
do
know
it.
each other. Just like
Have a
all
good time.
Canadians.
Same with every country.
But to get back to Ravioli's art, since that's what we're here for.
Alright. They asked about background specific things. The town, I like. I really like the
I
town.
love the town.
Just
Yeah,
nestled
that's
in there,
lovely. I'm so bad at buildings. That looks lovely.
not trying to be a focus. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
The mountain range is pretty good too. If I was to add a few things, I would take this forest that you have right over here. You know, this thing that I half circled. That thing. And I'd continue the tree line up to the side of the horse here. The reason is because then we can frame the horse with using the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Because
We'll
right
also
now,
get that size
yeah.
comparison.
Because right now we have just background and horse is foreground or center, whatever we want to call that. But if we're to take the lovely little trees and bring it off towards the side, we can get some nice framing elements going on here using a mountain behind him, not this one. We want to take that one, shove it over this way.
Behind her.
Her, whatever it is. I'm not judging here.
The horse.
Bring the mountain over this way, a little taller too if we can get it. And then we can frame the horse with the mountain and the trees on both sides, and it's the center.
Yeah, that'll make really great composition too, because it'll bring the focus more inwards towards the horse, because this mountain, it'll be pointing at the horse, this range will be pointing at the horse.
And then you've got the mound behind them that's reaching the peak right behind them, so that's pointing to her as well.
And then we follow through with seeing the city. It's like I almost want to say, like, put some like flowers or something up here to lead our eye back up to the horse, so you have kind of this like
Yeah, because there's a lot of
swoop
negative
of
space down in the bottom.
composition going on.
That is a good point, actually, because you've got like this lovely town and forest and everything, whereas this is a very blank area, you know, so it's like you can use that for something. You can, it's some flowers, you know. You do little tulips or something. Here we go. There,
Little
that's
grassy
nice.
bits.
And yeah, little grassy bits.
Rock.
Yeah, there's a rock, and it's also got some grassy bits.
Because I think the key for this
Long
picture
grass.
to have like a nice composition, because the town is so detailed, my eye gets drawn to it.
Yeah.
Usually you get drawn to either like the brightest thing or the most detailed thing. And since
Yeah.
we're looking at line art right now, I'm drawn to the town because it's the most
there's no contrast or in the colors or tones because there aren't any. So yeah, exactly as Ali said, your eyes are well, not screen immediately drawn over here because look at all that stuff, all these lines and details and everything looks great. There's a lot to see, whereas the pony has big areas of nothing really happening in the body, and and that's understandable because ponies are very simple creatures. But that's always like sort of the tricky balance is how do you make a pony more contrast, or should you drop the contrast and detail in everything else? It's always tricky. You can do little things like bits of fluff on the pony. You can do sort of higher detailed manes and tails. You can give them clothes. There's all sorts of little ways to experiment. How do I get a razor? To bring out the detail in your horsey horse.
And like I said, it can even be just as simple as leading your eye back around, because like if we think about the composition right now, I want to go like this, just a straight line down, and then I go off the page. Nothing makes me want to return back around. Usually a nice composition has something that makes you look all around the canvas. So even if you add like some nice like things sticking out here, like some flowers, kind of bringing the attention back over to the pony, something leading up to her that makes you go like, oh hey, there's stuff over there, and like, oh look at the pony again, I'm back to the big
Mm.
picture.
Leading eye direction is hard, but it can be really fun once you learn how to use it, and you can really make a picture look sort of more substantial.
Mm-hmm.
And all I've sort of been mostly doing on this is just sort of like minor cleanups of the lines to make everything look sort of a bit neater, like on the face and everything. The lifted up hoof looked like the shoulder could be brought back somewhat, and the hoof itself slightly small compared to the other ones. I'm just sort of working on just sort of everything, making everything look consistent and neat. As for faces, the mouth sort of looked a little bit off. No, learning practicing with sort of like muzzles and mouths is a good place to start because it's very easy to get good at doing those and to like practice different ways of making them express and emote and to make them flexible and just feel really good. And then once you've got that done, that immediately gives you a staple to make your art look nice and fancy and lively. It makes everything like alive, and you're already going to be. It's going to help you to feel better about drawing if you have something like that to give your art some life. And you've already got really nice looking, like your face is good. The proportions are pretty nice. Nothing is super out of place or anything. Like we do see a lot of people struggle with that, and I think you've got a really good good thing going so far. It's just sort of about continuing to push that, make things feel a little bit more flexible and natural. What I just drew is not very good. As an example, I'm not very good at drawing on this still. I hope it gives you an idea anyway. It's hard to see when we draw over the red line over the drawing.
All right, you got any other questions for us? Oh, that's a good stretch. Oh, yeah.
Being a zombie will give you a bit of a back problem.
Apparently. I had that sitting in office chairs all day. All right, we're going on to the next picture then. Oop.
Yeah. Really quick, I have a YouTube video I'm gonna link. One of the YouTubers I watched just did a thing on backgrounds, and I think it'll be helpful, nice to listen. And again, I want to I realized it was muted, but I wanted to say that's really great that you're experimenting, because I know a lot of artists are guilty of, I just want to draw the picture and not a background. And sometimes
Yeah.
working on that background will make you a better artist. Pushing yourself to do that kind of stuff.
I had to really push to a picture I just finished like yesterday. I had to really push to do the background. It's so tedious, but it's important, and it will get easier as you do it.
Was that the picture of my OC striking a majestic pose while riding on the sunset?
Riding the sunset?
Yes, riding the sunset. Not the horse, but like the actual light.
Like actually.
Yeah.
You're like on the horizon line.
Exactly.
Sounds familiar. Anywho, which one are we going to next?
Corin CZ11. They have submitted a picture. I've posted it down at the bottom.
Ah, there it is. It just appeared.
Sounds lovely.
Hi, am I crazy loud?
Nope.
Oh, you're okay on mine?
Okay, cool.
So you asked about the
So
background.
I am really, really struggling with the background here. I think I've been working on it for the past 3 hours, and I have just gotten nowhere with it.
Let me ask you this. Do you have any, do you have inspiration photos, things that you're taking from?
I actually had a reference that I was more or less drawing over, but I just don't know how to... I don't know. I don't know how to get the detail that it has in there.
This pillar that I'm sort of messing with, does this follow the line that we're seeing go here? Like these pillars on the outside?
What about it?
Like this. On the bottom here, is this how it goes if it were to continue off the canvas? This shape,
the stream's like 45 seconds off.
Oh, right. The thing at the top right of the canvas is what I'm talking about. I guess wait for the stream.
Oh, that's supposed to be a tree. Top right. Oh, that's a. Yeah, it continues going up.
What
Yeah.
animated
That's what the picture is based off of.
Wait, let's have a look. Did you just post something? Ah, there it is. I see. So the only thing is, I just feel that this pillar sort of breaks the perspective a little bit because it makes it look like it's going inside. So if you just brought it down and sort of connected it to the rock a little bit lower down, that will sort of give us a better idea. Because I mean, if you think about it, sort of like a table, you want to you'd have. I know it's not obviously, and the rocks are in an uneven position, so of course it makes perfect sense for it to be at different positions. But if you had a table, here we go, a random floating table, who cares? Obviously the legs in the front here are going to be behind, are going to be sort of in front of the legs at the back, and the same thing goes the other way up as well. Just because it helps our minds sort of like understand how something is going, even if it doesn't really. Even if sometimes there's a logical reason for something to be, that's like, okay, well, like it looks a bit weird, but I know it's because of this reason. But maybe sometimes that reason doesn't make sense to your brain when you actually look at a picture. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
So sometimes it's about what sort of you can do with the drawing that makes your mind perceive it the way it's supposed to be. Because the only thing is, when I looked at the picture, I saw this thing at the back, and it looked almost like this pillar was on the inside, like it was further back because of that sort of like table rule. We'll call it. So I'll just bring this down because then it kind of completes the illusion that it's in front. As for the rest of it, I'm not really sure because it's all very kind of abstract. All like the rocks and trees and stuff. I feel. Have you done made everything grayscale and looked at the values?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did try doing that. So I feel like there's a lot of darks in the background. Oh, my program disappeared on me. The background seems very high contrast and very like dark, and the character stands out because they're very like light by comparison. But there's it feels like there's sort of a lack of depth to them compared to some of these darks directly surrounding the character. Ooh. Like around here, this sort of stuff. It feels like it sort of jumps out to the eye more than the character does.
Okay.
So, I know you're talking. You said briefly earlier that you're not sure how to recreate, some of the textures and stuff. Honestly, the best thing to help you with that would be to, take a close up of a texture you want to try to recreate and do a study of it. That's going to be the best way you can learn how to do this kind of stuff. And there's also tutorials out there for like rock textures and like grass and pillars and things to do research on. If you're struggling with like a full piece, break it down into parts that you can easily chew and maybe take time to study and understand. Because I know it's really easy to just get overwhelmed with, this is the entire background with 40 different elements in it, and each part has its own texture, and blah 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 blah, and it's not working out because nothing's the way I picture it, and it's not like the reference, and all those art struggles we all have. Just break it down, do some studies of the background you wish to use, like the picture you showed us in chat. Take that apart, like do a close-up on the pillar and try remaking one of the pillars right next to it, or pick a area of rock and try to recreate that right next to it. Just give yourself time to experiment and study the piece, because sometimes it's hard to want to do that because it's a very time consuming thing, and art does have a lot of time consuming elements to it. But the effort and the time you spent doing the study is going to be the best thing you can do. There's no red line we can really give that will be able to fix the background. It's really all about learning how to interpret different backgrounds, how to interpret
Yes.
textures.
And something I think might make it easier is if you try drawing it a little bit smaller, but like in a bigger, broader kind of sense. So like before going fully into the thing, you're like, okay, so like the background is this temple that goes like this, and ooh, and then there's like there's some rocks that come out here, and you sort of sketch it out, make sure it makes sense. Here's the tree, and then you sort of get a better idea, and then you can sort of bring it up and put it into higher detail. But you're not trying to figure out like how does this make sense, like going like this, you have your reference, and you've already sort of figured out and worked out how these rocks are going into place and how this temple is going, and then okay, if it goes up any further, this little bit, next bit of the temple will be visible, and uh, you're able to place and compose things that way more easily, and basically it's the point that you don't want to be trying to struggle to figure something out in the middle of the drawing like this, because that's just making it harder work for you, and you're struggling with it as you've told us. But if you've already done that working out somewhere else and you figured it out, then it's like you've already done the work, and then you can just apply that to the picture.
Okay.
So, any further questions? Like the approach the background, right?
Yeah, I think that's about it, unless you have something else to say.
No, your characters are pretty much your standard character that you've had for the last bunch of pictures. The same faults and same good points exist on them. I do notice a bit more detail on the armor as opposed to normal, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
It usually goes like that when I have a reference for the armor and I'm not just pulling it out of my butt.
It's good armor.
Well,
I mean, I struggle a little bit with armor.
And Chaos in chat brings up a really great point, that making a very detailed background on a tightly framed picture and the character's supposed to be the focus, it's almost like a wasted effort, because they're going to fight between looking at the background and the character. But you can do it, like Chaos says, but it's good to keep that in mind, where sometimes you sacrifice certain bits to make something else stand out. Art isn't always about making everything perfectly the way it is. It's about making the art look good to the eye.
And what you might want to consider trying in the future, and I'm not sure how well you think it works. You've got this nice sort of like colored sketchy style going on, which is really cool. But something that might help, if you did want to do sort of a higher detail background, is to just blur it. Just get the background that's behind the character and just like do a Gaussian blur. Just because as a subtle touch, that helps push it out of focus and pushes the character into focus. And it really helps our minds immediately figure out, okay, this is in front, I can ignore everything else behind it, but subconsciously it's still there, it still makes the image look pretty, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I tried doing that and it just didn't work.
Because you got because the background kind of blends into the foreground where you got like the grass at the front, or did it just not look nice in general?
It was actually more of a conflict of layers. The issue is that not all the colors of the background are on the same layer.
Yes, yeah. No, I mean I get that as well. That's why,
right?
While it's a bit of an inconvenience sometimes, as long as I'm sort of hoping I've got everything in the background done, I'll get it as done as I think I can. I'll then like make a copy of the folder or layers, whatever, and just merge all of them into one, and then just blur that. Which also means you need to a mistake I've made as well is you've got to have the background actually drawn behind the character, because what I do often is if a shape goes behind the character, I'll just go, oh, whatever, and just like as long as the line art's closed, I can make selections, so I don't care, and everything under the character just looks weird, broken. Then I go to blur it, and parts kind of are missing, and it's like, oh, whoops. But it's that way. The only convenience is if I want to change something in the background, I've got to keep doing that, like re-merging everything and blurring it after I make changes. But that's a good way to do it at the very least.
I actually drew the background just with her kind of turned off. She wasn't there for most of it.
All right, so you drew the whole
shadows.
You drew the whole background then, like on its own. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a good thing to do. It's just not something I'm in the habit of doing.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of flowers behind the cape that I realized were behind the cape after I turned it back on. That's why. It's like, look at all this detail that I just did. Yes. That's not even going to be in the picture.
Yeah, like having details that you've worked hard on getting not shown is one thing. Another thing is having stuff just a little bit showing. Like if for example you had a flower but only just like the tiny bottom of it was showing, and then it's like, what's that? Just like randomly put behind the cape for no reason, you know? It kind of feels a bit out of place. But I've seen some artists who draw and paint the entire background, like just knowing the general area where the character's going to be, but they paint this beautiful background and then they paint the character, and it's like, whoa. And then you can use that background for other things. But no, I think
she is kind of leaning.
Good. I don't have any other comments anyway.
All right, cool. Well, I guess that gives me something to do next.
Yeah, and there's also some good comments happening in voice chat channel. I'll leave you to read those.
All right. Luna.
Luna, won't you cry for me?
No. Okay. Day 14 of my Drawing a Day challenge, Princess Luna by Emeralda. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Thank you, Ali. I was about to do that. This is the one on the top right, Luna, I'm assuming, because there's also a little thing.
Luna with the big moon.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is a super pretty one. I was like drawn to this right from the beginning. Very nice. Did you have something in mind for the like motions and posing is what I would like to propose. Like sort of thinking about the way the character's moving and the positions they're going in. Because that's sort of something that's obviously this is a scene where a lot of motion is going to be happening, and I can see that's already taking place, but it's sort of my brain is trying to work out like how she's moving, and that part's not quite so clear. Just based on like the posing and like the hair movement, it's not like anything's particularly out of place, I think, or contrasting it. It's just sort of like, yeah, doing what Ali's doing right now and creating action lines is a super good way to sort of, because what you want to do is have one movement in mind, one shift of mass, one sort of like direction or motion, and then you draw around that. You have the character dancing in a way, you know. So what Ali's done is called an action line, and you have one single line, and you draw the character around that, and then you've got you've got the sort of basis of your picture in the guide, so it's all following this motion, and then your brain immediately sees that. The other thing is sort of following it up with like, okay, see if I can do some sketching. So, character, little bean pony, is shooting to the left. So their mane is going to the right.
Slide to the left.
I don't know why this pony is like being just blasted or whatever. Oh no, it got rubbed. So it's just sort of thinking: is Luna sort of like just flying directly to the right? Is she sort of twirling? That's sort of what I wanted to ask, and what I think you do good to think about and sort of really try to emphasize in your next picture. You could even sort of have her tail, like if she was twirling around, you could have her tail coming over the body, because it's partially transparent, so you don't even have to like lose the body. Just sort of have it do this, and then you can sort of really get to play around with what's there. But that's just an experiment that you could sort of play with if you were feeling up to that.
Though I gotta give kudos for attempting this very hard pose. I'm
yes,
glad
definitely.
you didn't shy away from it.
It is something that's complicated, and it looks nice and it looks natural. Like I don't think, oh, her legs are in an uncomfortable position. It looks nice. I'm just sort of like, I know I was just sort of trying to give you tips that you could experiment with to potentially get better.
Oh no, of course.
We're never perfect.
Like, the fact that they attempted, like, don't get disheartened
definitely.
by all that we're saying.
Yeah.
The fact that you attempted.
I just wanted to clarify that. Nothing's wrong. It's good. We're sort of giving tips for potential improvement.
Yeah.
There's a single point I have about the wing.
Yes.
The one wing feels as though it's pushed over more than the other would be on the body, so I've just pulled it off towards the left. That's very easy to do digitally. I believe in you. It shouldn't be too hard. I do have a point to say. You have the horn glowing, which makes sense because magic. Cutie mark glowing because magic. Um, Mane is glowing, and there is all sorts of light just parading down onto her. Um, you have some sparkles in the shoes, but they aren't catching that light. They're like silver or something, and they tend to be shiny. I would add a little catch light onto that, just a little more shine.
I like that. Yeah.
There appears to be a horse stuck in her mane. Oh geez, Luna, be careful.
And I would also be careful about the horn because you're actually showing a lot of the horn for the angle she's at. There wouldn't be this much horn showing. If you definitely want something that, has the horn more active, has more presence in the piece, I would choose a different angle. But because this is basically, if I drew a box where her head would be, this would be the bottom of her head, if I understand what you drew correctly. So her horn would be somewhere, this way, facing backwards. We would not see it much at all.
You might just see the tip.
Yeah, just barely, if any.
But you could do magic wrapping about that area at least.
Yeah, you could have like magic coming out of her head, just like an aura or just sort of some magic.
She just drew the 3 CMC in the main.
It's a trail of magic, misty smoke.
Yeah, reaching up towards the moon.
Yeah, and that could even help with this because there's a lot of empty space right here, and having like magic kind of like flow up towards the moon could take up a lot of that space and make it like super flowy and magical and just fun.
I was once flowy and magical.
Like, if I were to grab here, I'll grab a purple. No, not pink. No, that's blue. Green. I'll grab a green line. So, like, I could see the whole composition, especially if we get more of an action line in Luna. We could do something where it's like, woo. And that would give some complicated action line feel. Like that.
Especially if you've got more going on in the picture. Like, here you could have like Ali said, have the magic flowing around it and then have Luna. Whereas that sort of action line could also be like multiple characters or like flying around. But, more action lines because they're awesome.
But yeah, if you're not using references, I will just say the generic. I'm not. You maybe are, maybe not. You're not here. I wish I could ask you. Get references, lots of them. Ponies from all angles, maybe other animals. You can use other 4-legged creatures. They'll still be just as helpful for positioning and everything. Let yourself play with that. There has to be some really good references of ponies flying and seeing them from their belly. Wasn't there a shot from the MLP movie where they were just watching Pegasus fly and they were definitely doing some undershots?
Yeah. There's also the show itself, the Sun Festival. Luna or Celestia takes to the sky and it's from her chest. Do you see it?
Yes.
Some great references to play with there. They're not gonna be perfect, so use them with a grain of salt, but they're gonna help you.
Yes, they help you sort of understand the thought process going into like how the bodies are positioned and stuff. On a slightly different subject, I really like the stars in the background. Like they have just that sort of like nice. They have like the little sharp inside and the nice blurry outside, so it looks really really good from a distance. Anything I also really like how we've got like there's kind of like a blue glow coming from the bottom of the picture where Luna is, and the stars kind of fade out like the silhouetted. That's a really nice like little attention to detail that puts focus on Luna. And then you got like the moon right up above, so there's kind of a dual focus, and it's really good like that. Only slight touch that I would say is keep that going and like just have a slight sort of like black silhouette around the moon, like behind the moon, just on the stars. Just because like the light from the moon will be also silhouetting those stars as well. But just basically what you've done at the bottom of the picture. That's really good. It's really awesome.
To add to the action line.
There are little ponies lost in her tail, it seems. Q Pencil Case drew some great action
Rotate
line
the body.
experimenting. Rotate the body.
Gyrate them hips.
Get the booty shaking.
All right. Anyone else got anything on this one?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
Anyone else have any art they'd like to submit? Please do. You know the rules. Fire it at her face. Make sure it's safe for work. All that stuff. Ooh. All right. And last.
Heck yes, wanna draw. Rule 1, references. It's never cheating. They are your savior, your help. They're your best friend. Learn to love them.
Remember, nothing's illegal until you get caught. Wait, no.
Damn it, thumbs up. This is why you're dead.
Yeah, I got caught. Alright, so this is actually a picture by me. It's a sketch.
Adorable.
Adorable little horses. It's supposed to be Celestia, or Philly, Celestia, and Luna. They're just rough, so I can get an idea of them before I translate them to digital.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Luna I'm pretty happy with. I actually kind of really like that pose. It was Celestia, not the biggest fan of her back leg and how it formed out. Hoping to get... It kind of makes her arse look fat for such a small horse. And then the wing just sort of fell off.
It's from the big butt.
It ate the wing. So any suggestions?
I'm just pulling up a reference so I can preferably, because I forget what they look like as fillies.
Never been in the show as fillies.
Okay, fair enough.
True. But there's plenty of pretty accurate looking things we can use from artists who have studied this before. And of course, again, not 100% accurate, but then again, nor are the show things always. Just a good basis to start.
Yes. So let's see. I think the big thing that makes the bottom legs on Celestia feel so big. Oh wait, that's not Celestia. This one feels so big. Let's see. That's why. Okay, I think we would see some of her stomach line, and I think that's what's throwing me off.
It's just what I was thinking as well.
Kind of get that. Something there.
Yeah,
and maybe have the leg pushed back a little bit. Like. That would be my 2 cents.
Unsquish a little bit. I do feel like her front leg is a little bit twisted as well. I can just zoom. I can't zoom. It's not letting me. There we go. Yeah. So she feels a little bit unbalanced because her leg's kind of going like this, and then it's also pointing this way, like this is the front, or at least that's kind of what it looks like to me. It feels like it should be more this way.
So I was going for she was cantering on a pose, so turning like
might be
on the way to turn her body. So legs sort of step under to get that turn going.
Yeah.
What part about the?
I'm struggling to see it. I kind of know. I kind of get what you're talking about. I'm just like trying to think. Like, is she's because again, if that is an intention that kind of should be a bit more obvious, and just looking at poses and references and just something like that that's very specific and subtle can be very hard. But it's also like if you just like sort of have a clear vision in your head of what you're trying to do and think about how the body moves, and you can definitely sort it out. Those eyes are looking pretty scary in that one.
She had demon eyes.
I didn't want to admit it, but it looks like she was shooting lasers.
Those were what those were.
Okay, good. I didn't want to be rude.
I did change up the crown because I really don't like Luna's crown is very small and petite, and Celestia's crown, at least the way a lot of people draw it when she's still a filly, is still the full head crown where it covers over the side like a pair of glasses or a tiara. I like Luna's crown, so I gave Celestia a slightly larger one because she's egotistical like that.
Makes sense.
I mean, at this point, like you said, they're not in the show. You can interpret the crowns however you goddamn want to.
The laser beams are back.
Shooting at the laser beams.
Pew pew.
Yeah. Question about the wing then. How would you do her wing for that angle? Because you're only just gonna get just the side shot of it, right?
You really are. It's just barely gonna rest, like.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, the move I have noticed the movie style puts the wings higher up on the back than the body does. If I can do some sketching, a second. So I'm just going to draw a random pony. It's probably not going to look like the little fillies, but who cares? So here's a pony, whatever. Terrible. Something I had to actually study myself was I didn't know whether the wings go over the legs or not, and they do. In the show style, they sort of have them like this. Something like that. They do actually overlap the legs, but in the movie they'll sort of be like tucked way up at the back like this. But yeah, it's kind of convenient, I guess, because it gets it a little bit more out of the way.
It also lets them put saddlebags on then.
Yeah.
It's always
it
about the show.
Wouldn't be very convenient with the saddlebags. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen Pegasi saddlebag. I'll have to look at like Rainbow Dash or Fluttershy wearing them and see.
They'll put them over the wings.
Yeah, so
and then the moment they need the wings, they just phase through.
Yeah, but
it's no big
will
deal.
Be very inconvenient and uncomfortable.
All right, well, thank you kindly.
If I could just make one last suggestion about the mouth on Celestia, I would actually move it over a little more so you don't have such a big lip area. So like get it nice and close and tight, since we are looking at it from like, more of a slanted view. We won't have it directly in the middle of the muzzle. It'd be just like the slightest bit, I think will help. Just closing that large gap. Little cute lip area. Nice.
It was the mlem tongue. Mlem.
Oh, it's the mlem tongue. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta make it bigger. That's
yes,
my new crit. Mlem.
Indeed. LD, they only have one ear each.
Yeah, the mane's huge. I drew the ear under it, and I'm like, I get a cover.
Yes, I know. I just teasing. That's what happens with me and drawing the big maned ponies. And you're like, there's only one ear.
Apparently, I'm drawing in white today.
You should have one anyways, Zao. Just because.
They can just have a super long ear, or it's just like detached, like it's floating above the head.
So, is there any other questions, Zao?
Nope. You guys covered it all.
Well, you made some really cute ponies.
Yay.
Now, Want to Draw, actually, they want some help with pony eyes. Mostly how to make them focus together. Because they, my apologies, sorry if I offended. They say that a lot of their eyes turn out like Derpy. And I've totally been there. It's always something that happens. The best thing I can suggest is give your pony something to focus on.
Yeah.
Like, let me find a place on the screen where I can draw. Okay, so here's my little green circle. I want the pony to look at this dot. And despite that, they're going to be looking sort of the other way, but I'm going to have them go back and look at the dot. Because it's art and I can make that happen. I have the power.
Got the power.
Power in our tablet pens.
So we got our little pony. Get the eyes. Maybe I want them to be sly, little eyes. And they'll be looking. They'll be looking back at that dot. Boom. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The second they have something to focus on, and you have something to point them towards, I find that that helps me. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing like, oh yeah, these look right, or yeah, these sort of work, or it's really just getting them to focus and looking on something. If that makes sense. And the hardest one, of course, is having a pony look at you. But that one's takes practice, and that's just a very challenging one, and you just got to give yourself time to figure out how that works out nicely. Even artists who have been doing this for years still have trouble making that one come together nicely.
Why am I typing when I be speaking out loud? They're saying when sometimes when their eyes turn and end up looking derpy, it's because because the eye shines are off. So it's like the consistent eye shine is definitely an important thing. I usually draw both eye shines manually just because it's easier. Ironically, usually the copying pasting is the lazy thing. But if you do copy and paste the eye shines, just move them over, and then just like adjust the sort of horizontal shape a little bit, then you can get them pretty much consistent, because it's the eyes have the same shape and the light's coming from the same source. The only difference is like the direction of the head. And if you're going like full into like photorealistic like reflections, there's going to be a lot more to think about in terms of like reflection and distance and everything. But you're not really doing that. So at least for if sort of doing these sort of simple sketches and drawings and everything. So if you're doing sort of more simple cartoony thing and just doing like the show does, then you don't have to go too scientific with the eye shines, as long as they sort of look like they match. Same sort of position on the iris, same direction, like they both have to be going on the same side of the eye. Then it shouldn't look too bad.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help being when they were like, oh, all my drawings end up looking like W's. And like, all my drawings end up looking like W's too. Oh wait, shit, they actually are W's. I heard them mention a picture they posted. I can't see it though.
One of the other things I suggest for eye shines, follow your light source. So if your light source is top left-hand corner, up here.
Oh yeah.
Your eye shine is going to be catching on that top left-hand corner. Alternatively, you can do the opposite location. So light shine up on the top. Womp. But it's going to be following that. If it's just like, hey, lights up in the top left-hand corner, but I'm going to do it over in the right because I am a person who decides where my own colors go. Rebel without a cause. There we go.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Rebel without a light source.
Yes.
Too hardcore.
That feels like it should be the name of an art blog.
Any other questions? Art that people would like to submit? Ponies they would like to say are the best pony. Shoutouts to people.
To people.
Phrases they would like Fluffy's Eye to say.
What?
That's a great picture. I really enjoyed that episode, except for the entire premise of it. I'm sorry, those three just need to. Yeah, they just need to not be so clingy.
Cling.
They're just trying to protect you.
No. It might be a baby dragon, but it's only like 3 years younger than Twilight. And
or something around that anyway. Yeah. I think it was more the idea of how dangerous actual dragons are to them. They're like terrified of them.
They are horses. They shouldn't have been messing with dragons. Any chance you could do the sunburst drawing you posted on? I guess we could. Let me find it.
Sunburst.
First question I have for you. Did you read Wanna Draw's critique?
Because it's a really great critique.
Alright. I have something special to tell you. Wanna Draw is actually typing between every phrase you say. So do you have any questions for their critique? Because reading their critique, yes, I agree with their critique.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they actually just dropped a picture of their own that is very similar and emphasize the critique. That's great. I will be back in just a moment, but I have good news. The other two voices will still be here.
We don't have to leave?
No.
Have to. More like don't get to leave. We're stuck forever.
Permanently trapped, really.
I mean, yeah, you could even, let me quick read over, remember, so I don't repeat anything. But yes, perspective definitely could use some work, and that's mostly going to be, learning how to make a perspective grid and working that into stuff. It's not as hard as it seems or sounds, as long as you put in the time to look into it and practice it. And I agree, the books. You can even put stuff that are not books on the shelves. I know you can add a lot of flavor to a shelf by adding maybe like bookends, like old school bookends, or like maybe there's like a candle or some sort of thing that helps with light. Sure, they have magic, but flavor is still flavor, you know?
I feel like going into this, you sort of think like having to draw out an entire shelf and think about what's going on it and draw out all these objects sounds really difficult. But like, I'm sure at the end of the day, after doing all those books, you were like just as much wanting to eat your pen. Like,
so just like, eat the pen.
Yeah, put myself out of this misery. But yeah, I agree with Ali. The perspective is definitely way too uniform. You're going to be getting the books at the front bigger than the ones at the back because of perspective. So it definitely looks off looking at the bookcase. And yeah, I've drawn like bookcases and stuff. It is annoying having to think about like where the books are going. And you've got the first step, which is to have a couple of them like loose and falling over. But like the others are way too uniform. And like Ali said, having other stuff on the shelf, definitely a good idea. Bookends, little treasures and knickknacks and things he's collected. I mean, he's into antiquing, right?
Yeah.
So you'd probably want to display those with his books.
And
so that's
also,
definitely a good idea.
I kind of want to, I don't know if you were around for the whole stream, but there was a image we did earlier that had sort of the same approach issue happening where there was going to be too much detail in the background, and when you have a piece that focuses so largely on the character and then there's this hugely detailed background, it's kind of a wasted effort, because now I'm fighting between staring at all these books and then Sunburst and like, oh, but these books, but the focus should be Sunburst, right? You want Sunburst reading the book, being the big picture. The background's just there to give environment, give a feeling.
True.
So,
although I do feel that with the high difference in light and tone in this picture, you have sort of, I think that overrules the detail a little bit, because Sunburst is very much like drawn in, whereas the back is so kind of like, the contrast between line and color in the back is so similar that it blends away and out of focus a little bit.
See, I have to disagree solely on the point that we have perspective of books happening. We have this giant book right here, and then all these little books right here.
Well, that's
But
true. Yeah, it
how
kind of draws
far
you to it.
away are we actually from the shelf? Why are these
Yeah, that's a
books
good
so
point.
small? So
Yeah.
it's like to see a book in front of me and behind me, I'm drawn to seeing both books.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. It does sort of make you think about like the distance and how far away it is. I was going to say, as soon as I looked at this picture, I really like the use of lighting in this because
Yes.
everything you got sort of like darks like here and sort of mid-tones. Everything draws in to the middle of the picture because you've got this very nice, well-defined light source that like comes from his horn and it branches out, and that's really good. Like you've got this gentle fade around the horn that sort of goes outwards. Even like sort of the light and like the colors you used as you go outwards in the image get increasingly darker, and I really like that. I thought that was a really good effect. Like the book, look, we got the shadow cast on it here, which is really good. The whole sort of like atmosphere has been really built up well in terms of light. It's very warm.
Mm-hmm.
Although just noticing now in terms of that, the only thing fighting that is the door here. That's like right on the edge, and it's like very bright, and it's right there. Because I guess I get like the doors open. But if you wanted to have the door open and also sort of like, light flooding in from the door, you're also going to have that happen over here. There's going to be light casting there. There's going to be a deeper shadow here because it's going to be contrast to the light, and the light's going to be fading in like there'll be soft light around the door because it's not going to just suddenly, oh, here's the door. The door will be sort of faded in the light, much like his horn is. So that's going to be like fighting what you've built up with Sunburst here. My advice would be to like have the door just closed, and that way it's like door closed. Here it is, whatever, and then you don't have to have the secondary light source confusing you because then you got light coming from the back as well as coming from his horn, and you've clearly only really used lighting stuff from the horn, as you should do, because it's wonderful to use that as a light source, and you've used that very well. So I'd say don't take that away from yourself. Like make use of that and make it. You're sort of stealing your own thunder in a way, and it's stealing focus away from Sunburst to have the light behind him. So just steep that in darkness, and then you've got the whole picture consistent. Then.
Mm-hmm. I actually have a question, because I know sometimes this happens. I know I've done it before. Did you have the background drawn before or after you finished drawing the character? Because I know a lot of the times backgrounds get messed up because they're the afterthought. They draw the character first, and then they draw the background, where it's better to draw the background and put the character into it so it actually feels like it's interacting and the proportions feel a little bit better, and you have that constant comparison to work with. Because I think it all really does loop back around to the perspective is off, therefore everything feels off.
Yeah, and all of our talk today about like drawing the backgrounds and everything, and like how the character sits in that rather than drawing the background around the character, which I admit is something that I do. And it's not so much because the background is an afterthought every single time, or sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just still drawn around the character. But I actually kind of want to do some pictures now and just try like just painting a scene and then drawing the character into the scene, because the environment was there first, and then the character walked into it.
Yeah.
So that might be fun for you to experiment with as well.
Just really giving thought to the environment and then putting the character, because the character can move, right? The environment's pretty stable, depending on what you're working with. Maybe you're in a tiny spaceship and things float around, but still. The environment is the concrete of the image. It is what will not move. The character can move any which way.
They was saying they think they sort of removed him to draw the background in, and that's good. Then you're not sort of doing what myself and someone else were doing earlier, where we'd like draw just behind the character and nothing else.
But still, it's better to draw the background first, because even if you draw the character first and then draw around it, or have the background completely around them, excuse me, you still have the issues of them not meshing together, because now you're at the whim of the character, and since we have a character that has no visible like connection to their background. Like we don't see the hooves touching the floor or him. He's using magic to interact with something, but there's nothing physically interacting with him. So to help just with that, it's like how to make him in the environment rather than the environment around him.
Yes.
Which is something, we all learn. It's all something we practice over time. It's not gonna, work great the first or second or third, maybe not even the 30th time you try it. It's just one of those things. You just gotta keep trying, keep practicing. It's a lot of art. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of time, but it's all worth it if you really want to learn to up your skill.
I like CPC's drawing on the right.
You get this.
A couple of other points that Maze has made. Actually, I think there's something else. Oh yeah, the artist said in the chat as well. The book's supposed to be a big magic book, and I was going to say to that, let us figure that out with the image. What I would suggest is putting a little book here, and so we say, okay, well that book is clearly in the same place as this, so like it must be small and this must be big,
Mm-hmm.
So that, unless that's a rug behind him, I'm not sure. But just putting a book, or having maybe carrying one, like, oh, here's a book, and that's sort of like held in his levitation as well. So that way we get to directly see, okay, this is a big book. The ones in the background are regular size books. And a couple of points that Maze Temporal has pointed out. One thing, he said the inner ear seemed a bit too small and close to the edge, which I also agree with. You could sort of bring it in, have the outside part of the ear thickest. The other thing, he says the light on the floor feels mysterious and unexplained. That I agree with as well. I'm not sure if that's what's supposed to be coming from the door, because again, we don't really have the light being cast from the door anywhere. And it seems a bit strange the way it's like coming in. So I'm assuming that is the floor, where I just drew that book, which would make it an even bigger book.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe it's like a pedestal or something. So yeah, it's like, where is this? Is that light coming from him? Because
So
you got to
yeah,
think
they're
about...
saying it's from the horn.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Because if he's here, why is the light sort of going this way? If it's going to be like around him, just sort of think about the positioning and where everything is landing, which again will help a lot if you drew the background first and then placed him in it. Then it'd sort of work a lot. It'd be easy for you to work it out. Sorry.
I think it falls back to earlier that I think you're trying to put too much detail into the background when the character is the focus. Like, it's really nice that you brought the idea of the light splashing onto the floor, but we don't want to see the floor. We want to see sunburst. We want to see, the glowing effect around him. And it's also just thinking like, back to the book, how this is such a large book and we have such tiny books. So I just drew on the feet. I'd say that's about how long his feet would be with these kind of proportions, and I just draw a line. It's like, this is how close he is to the bookshelf, and I have no perspective of how far away he is. So to me, it looks like he's very close to a bookshelf with very, very tiny books. So even if it is a giant magic book, like Fluffy said, adding stuff in between or even close by, we need something more, or else it's just very, very tiny books and one very big book.
And again, if you instead of moving the bookshelf, focused on that perspective,
and make it bigger.
I'm doing this very, 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 I'm doing this very sloppily. But then if you get a position, say instead of just going from here to here, it is like this, and he is, we can see he's going into the distance. The bookcase going to distance, and he is in the foreground. The way I actually drew those was really messy, and I had no guides for, so please don't actually use those. I was just sort of giving an example because they will be stretching into the background with a disappearing point. If you don't know what that is, it's a point where in the background where the lines of perspective seem to vanish into, or vanishing point is sometimes called.
I was wondering. Was it not?
I learned it as disappearing point in school, in college. But yeah, anyway, it's yeah, so that will definitely help us, because like Ali said, as far as we're seeing, we got like a 1-to-1, like almost, Sims, where it's like just sort of a block, everything's in the same proportion in little squares, but we don't want that. We want him to be pushed into the foreground and pushed into the background. And you should probably shut that door, because the little pony is coming in.
Someone's sneaking in. But I do want to say on top of all that, I want to say Sunburst is drawn really well. Like
Yes,
besides the
I
little
love
ear
the
thing,
detail on the hair.
yeah, the hair looks great. The face is great, very good. I know a lot of people have trouble with stallions. I think you got a stallion muzzle down pretty great. The cloak feels like it's on him, so I really kudos to all that. I don't want to forget to mention that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to mention like the sort of lighting and detail in it as well. Very smooth, and you definitely got like the nice colors down. Everything looks very sort of crisp.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
a little
I'll say...
suggestion that Maze Temporal gave as well, which it would just be completely optional. It might be a bit too much hard work, but what you could experiment with is distorting under the glasses, like just sort of maybe make like a merged duplicate of everything that's under the glasses and just shift it slightly so it looks like the glass is distorting it. But that would just be like a small detail that Maze wanted to suggest.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it works just because you have a very flat color image, so to have something have fancy texture would feel a little off, and nothing else to
I
have
think
a
it looks
fancy...
fine as it is personally as well.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with experimenting that and maybe pushing the rest of your piece and going into a more textured shading instead of cell shading.
Oh, as another suggestion that I just thought of actually, while everything is really good, I feel like the coloring's really great, but I feel like something that you're lacking is expression, because I noticed this because I was looking at the mouth, and you've just literally got the exact circle O mouth, and which is not a very realistic shape. I mean, the eyes are sort of very plain. There's sort of really, I can tell he's like surprised, also like curious and invested in the book, but it's a very sort of like plain expression. Even just if you were to replace the sort of O mouth, which now that I've zoomed in is literally an exact actual circle, like ellipsis that you've dragged down. Yeah, something like that. That'd be very, very surprised. Very surprised face. You can experiment and be like, okay, that's cool. That's one idea. Sorry, CPC. We'll keep. Oh, here, mild surprise, or you can try something else.
If you did want the O mouth, it's a hard expression to do on a pony because muzzles don't exactly make an O shape like humans do. So I would honestly look around and see how cartoons do it. How do cartoons handle that kind of
there's
expression?
a lot of great tutorials. What's that one you really like turning people onto, Ali?
The Lackadaisy Cats one?
Yeah, that's the one, Lackadaisy Cats. Yeah. They've really got really good tutorial and expressions and everything. But yeah, play around with it.
Yeah. Overall, this was really great, and nice just to keep pushing yourself, because I know we talked a lot about a lot of different things, but you shouldn't feel discouraged. This is just what critique is. We're all here to just learn and get better and up our skill.
Because we have a lot to talk about, doesn't mean that there's a lot wrong with the picture. It means that you're. In fact, if anything, it means you're getting better. I think the more you get into drawing, the more that there is stuff to like point out to improve. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, you're getting really, really good, and it's just like a lot of suggestions that could push you in the right direction.
Yeah.
You can feel free to like take other sources instead of our word and like just study in other places. But like as long as you're trying and looking and practicing, it's all great.
Yeah. And good for you doing backgrounds. It's hard, but like they totally. I don't know. Some pieces just the background really makes it push your art further. It's fun to just draw like ponies. I draw ponies just by themselves all the time. But like sometimes just having it in a background, having the interaction, like I see artists do these beautiful background pieces and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna learn that one day. I'm gonna try my best. And you just gotta keep trying.
Alright, on to the next picture.
On to the next picture.
So this one,
which is a very who possibly could have done this?
I don't know. It's an anonymous source of cuteness. It was
possibly pencil related.
Maybe.
Not sure. So CPC, was there any questions you had for this piece? Just kind of general anatomy.
She was specifically wanted to focus on Rainbow Dash, which I think is the one behind that sunset glimmer, sunset glimmer. No, starlight shimmer.
No, this is a
Fluttershy. With the big floofy hair, I love it.
Yes.
So I would turn her face down more if you're going to try and face palm. Or actually just turn the elbow out. Turn the elbow towards us. Because face palming, yo.
Yeah, face huffing can be difficult to get right.
Yeah,
I've tried and struggled with it myself, but
that's because you're a human.
yeah, it's kind of hard to hit
mean
myself
we're
in the
not
face with a hoof when I
robots?
don't have one. But what are you talking about? I'm totally a horse.
Of course, of course.
So like, who's Twilight and Rarity have both done it in show, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, they've done big face palms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rainbow Dash has done it.
Mhm. I think Pinky has. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the elbow dropping is, I think, the largest issue of that, and it's causing the wonkiness.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what if you did a different type of face palm? Because this Rainbow Dash one I just found could be an interesting use instead. I'll post it in the voice chat. But yeah, like instead of her covering her muzzle, doing like going around her muzzle, sort of like gripping her muzzle. I feel like that could be something you could possibly interpret a little bit better at this angle.
Yeah, she's like covering her face.
Yeah, it's more
That's pretty
like
cool.
gripping herself.
It's like wrapping
And
around
it's more
her face.
expressive too.
Yeah. I think I've seen ponies do that bunch as well. Actually, let's have a little doodle.
It feels like I don't know. That face palm feels like more of a horse thing to do because they don't, Just think about it. Punching your hoof into your face, that can't be pleasant.
The hooves are very hard. Also, I would say Rainbow's back legs are very small. They don't feel like they match the forelegs. That's all.
I feel like, yeah, some of these legs are a bit small. Like, I'd say Twilight here has the best legs. She has them very thick on both sides. Nicely done. But yeah, here with like AJ, her back leg gets small, and same with Rarity, her back leg gets small. And I feel like there's not enough perspective going on for them to be that small. So like just little fixes like that, making them thicker.
I'm sure you'll be much happier with it overall once you've done that. Even if it's not something you noticed, it might be like once you if you like play around with it, it might be like, oh yeah, it's like way better now.
I mean, other than that, I don't have too terribly much else to say. This is classic CPC style.
Vintage CPC.
Vintage CPC. Maybe give Spike another leg. He deserves to have 2 legs.
he should be bipedal, not unipedal.
Just hopping around. Poor Spike. Oh, okay. See, I would have never known his leg was there.
Oh yeah, it's a bit hard to.
That might be, what is it called when lions do things that
tangent.
Make you tangent. I think there's too much of a tangent going on for us to tell.
RD has a long tail as it is. You could easily shrink that thing a bit.
If you don't want to have him in like a very basic standard standing pose, have his other leg poking out the back there.
Oh yeah, behind the back. That could do too.
Is that, hey,
I was going to shrink. I assume the tail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the foot.
Just run it through the wash on hot.
Yeah.
The tail.
Ponies confirmed to be wool.
Whether you shrink the end of the tail to make more spike foot visible, because that spike foot I feel is also kind of big. Like you were trying it too hard to like fit it in, or try what I did and put the other leg like sticking out the back like it's lifting it up. Whichever way you try, have a little experiment.
Though, if I could be honest, I kind of like the idea of Spike just standing there holding a tail, like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I kind of like that idea. Like he's not. He's just waiting his turn to move in the hold up.
I'm trying to make it big. It was already big before you put the tail in. Is that what you're saying? So CPC's comments, we just get them appearing in the stream, so viewers can see what we're responding to.
She has the VIP communication system where she must write to us. We get carrier pigeons she sometimes sends us. Other than that, like I said, I think this is fun. You have a lot of interesting poses, which I really love, and everyone has their own emotion going on, so that's pretty awesome. I like that. It's a nice variety. So otherwise, like, I really got nothing else.
Spike's head and neck seems kind of awkward. I think that's just because it is a bit thin, actually.
Someone in the chat was saying that Fluttershy's hair has a connection problem. Honestly, wouldn't say she does. It's just a very forced over mohawk. Some in the link you posted as an example, I think that has some other issues going on. And just like with this type of style, I think it makes her hair feel very floopy, very heavy, very long. She has a lot of hair. So I don't think there's necessarily a connection problem. Maybe it could be moved to be more mohawkish, like, because here's the line for the head, so maybe like to tuck the other curl back. But I think doing attachments of hair like that is pretty okay. Instead of just like
nice.
going straight up and out, it kind of like floops over itself and curls.
Yeah, it's cute. And like the actual line on top of the head isn't just like a straight flat line either. It's like it's got more weight and shape to it. You're welcome, CPC. I'm glad you found it useful.
Alright, on to the next one.
Sounds good to me. Where are we posting this bad boy?
I'm going to project it onto the moon, and it's for all of you to find.
Awesome. I've always wanted to like break out a laser pointer that can go to the moon. We can redline it like that.
Red line. Picture? I just resized you. Where'd you go?
It ran away.
There it is. Oh. I'm a stupid face. There it goes. Alright. To the very bottom.
There it is.
Whoop, there it is.
I like the Twilight in the bottom left.
They're both.
I always love wings being used. The same with the one on the right as well. I like wings that are being used in that sort of like arms expression.
Wing hands.
Wing expressiveness.
So they're wondering if it's a good technique to practice proportions / perspective, and wondering if there's simple technique ideas for proportions, because I'm not very bright on coming up with a process. You also might need to super downsize this picture. Sorry. Yes, we did.
What was the technique you did try for doing the proportions here?
I think slowly rotating them, because they're the same Twilight, but it's
slowly
rotating.
I mean, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm sort of wondering if there's, because I noticed the back leg looks like it's in a different position.
There's definitely some good undersketching going on.
You're clearly like trying hard to like get the anatomy and skeleton stuff there. I think so. The last time I did this, I can get the picture from my thing. I did a character art design, and I did the whole thing where you have like lines going across the picture, so you get everything in the same proportion, and that isn't really the issue as such here. The what you're trying to do is focusing mainly on posing, whereas it's getting that sorted as opposed to worrying about sort of like making sure everything's lined up and symmetrical. But it can very much help to get resizing is difficult. Oh, damn. So it can help a lot to make sure everything's lined up and not going crazy if you do the pictures next to each other. If that makes any sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I put that in just to show like I did like the lines along the background, so it's really it came out really horrible looking. So I had to squash it down. But yeah, so like okay, I'll draw the character this way around. So I had to like look at like okay, this part here, like the top of the tail goes slightly above that line. I'll like I'll I had to make sure it made place. But that helped a lot to trying to figure out like because I drew those. I didn't trace these bodies, like they're all drawn. So I had to like just analyze the other one and like look at how that should go from the back. So maybe do something like that with this, like have the same like proportions so they're all in a line and slowly rotate, making sure okay, this part of the leg falls just above the line here. Obviously you're going to get a perspective thing, like for example the top of the leg here versus here, the one on this side is going to be a little bit further down. Not saying you draw it too high here. I mean, like if they were lined up, it would be slightly lower down because of perspective, if that makes sense. The back of the body is further away and therefore smaller than if she was side view.
I do, yeah, but
since one of your focuses was on perspective as well as just like anatomy.
I do really like your battle plan here of keep redrawing the same thing slowly rotating. We do make that suggestion a few times in our subreddit. If you go to the guides, we actually have a challenge where it's take this picture and keep rotating it. If you go to draw a box, you have the same challenge. Take this box and keep rotating it. The only way to get very good at figuring out the anatomy is drawing it from all sorts of angles.
Mm-hmm.
And this way forces you to draw it from all sorts of angles.
And to keep, the proportions consistent through each of those angles and really keep in mind the structure and the bone structure, the anatomy, the form of everything. All these stuff, it's good to keep in mind while doing it, while practicing.
Totes my goats.
You don't want to just, like, blindly redraw. Analyze it.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions for us? We all are.
The journey never stops. It's just a fun road.
All right. Anyone else have any art they'd like to submit? Any questions they'd like to ask?
Ding, ding, ding. Last call.
Last call for alcohol. No, wait.
If you have any pictures, feel free to show us. I just noticed the series of pluses around my little doodle of
Confidence art tips.
Keep it a case.
Everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I draw for me. I don't really draw for other people. I'll occasionally take, not commissions, but I'll take requests or do trades and stuff, but just because they're fun. But as far as like gaining confidence in your own art, you'll probably always have some type of inkling in the back of your head going, this sucks, I suck. It's always good just to tell that voice to shut up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I find that it's not art that's the problem. Sometimes you have to take a look at yourself. It could just be something that you have a lot of, because I know personally I have a lot of self-confident issues in a lot of areas, and I know it affects my art and it affects my life. And sometimes it's something that can't be solved just with art. You need to take a look at your life. Maybe you need to get help. I know I'm seeing a therapist, and that's been helpful. Um, but yeah, sometimes I see a lot of people put pressure on, oh, it's art. Art's the thing that's making me not feel confident, and sometimes it stems from different roots.
But apparently my friend's watching, so I was like, funny art.
Yeah. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Art's not made in a bubble.
Nope.
Don't hide away in a corner with all your art, despite the fact that you might not want to show it to other people. Just
even if you just draw for yourself, that's totally fine.
The great thing about Discord is you can throw up a picture on there and be like, haha, look what I drew. And it might only be up there for 20 minutes or 30 minutes for people to see, and it'll just move on. And that can be very nice for some people because they're like, oh good, people aren't going to sit there and critically look at it for the next 4 hours, or it's not up on my DA so people can always see it. It's just there and gone. That's nice, especially when you have when you're just doing quick sketches and like, haha, look at this funny thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's always great to experiment and just try stuff out.
Yeah, and you don't have to make a masterpiece each time. Sketch, draw a little picture. It doesn't have to be a full completed thing. Each drawing you do is going to get you closer to your goal.
So, anyone else have any more questions or art they would like critiqued? Or do y'all save that huge picture at the end? No, we don't save this huge picture. We do, however, upload the video to YouTube.
Yes.
Oh, where's screenshot not working?
So I'd say again, last call for art questions or anyone who has something that they want critiqued.
I'm trying to convince my friend. He said might.
There seems to be like snugging and kissing going on down there. There's.
I was giving Kipenski's a hug, and then she was plussing it.
Aww. You have fluffed a cape. Shoot. We have a fluffy Luna. There is a fluffy rock.
Yes, Bloody Rainbow. This is pure safe for work.
Stream. Everything is being fluffed.
Only safe for work here. We help artists of all ages, and we want to be able to help artists of all ages.
Especially because we gotta upload it to YouTube, and we have to be mad advertiser friendly so we can get that mad dollar.
Man, I want my penny.
Yeah, right. I need that penny.
That penny we earned over the course of 1 year. But really, if you guys do have not safe for work things you want critiqued, join our Discord server. If you are 18 plus, we have not safe for work rooms for art critique. Sometimes it's just for like things that would be considered not safe for work, like nude sketches, studies, that kind of thing. Because let's face it, studies are all over art. You study anatomy. We're all adults here. But
Fluffy's not.
But yeah.
Right, I'm a princess.
Join our Discord, and we'll be able to help you, or someone will be able to probably help you in there.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Super friendly Discord, the MLP DS.
We are not doing any safe for, or not safe for works. This channel is safe for work. No, not safe for work at all. Because they're, like I said again, we help all ages, and the people are watching our stream of all ages. So
yes. I mean, some of us have our own NSFW streams on occasion, but like that's just up to whenever we want to stream. And if us as individuals feel like doing NSFW,
critique.
I meant like as art.
Oh, I think they're just asking for critique.
Yeah, I know.
You can find mine.
You can come into our Discord. We have NSFW channels in the Discord.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining this very secretive critique group for not safe for work.
Just like dressed in robes, like a secret cult.
You gotta have a mask on.
The masquerade mask, and they gotta have like a secret cult name, and like code names. Don't call me Barry. My name is whatever.
Praise the learning indeed. We're all learning.
Yay.
We're learning together. See, we were discussing the other day that we're going to turn this stream around on you folks, that all of us hosts are going to make art to post on the stream, and you guys are going to have to critique us to see how much you've learned.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
We don't know if it'd work.
It totally work. Just like free reign in the draw pile, see what happens.
The draw pile used to be public.
It used to be. Did someone mess it up? Did we have a bad boo-boo?
No.
I can imagine there probably would be.
We had too many people joining.
No, the other thing was just a better service for it, for
True.
offloading people onto drawing.
True. Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Because you didn't need to download an application and try and just make it go.
Aggie is much more convenient.
Praise Aggie.
All right. Well, it seems as though no one else has further questions. So we're going to be calling it a week, I guess.
Yeah.
Same time, same URL next week. At least.
Same phone time, same phone channel.
Same horses. If you want to get your art critiqued but might not be there, submit it to the subreddit or look for the post on the day of and submit it to there.
Or join our Discord and you can get someone to critique it in there.
Yeah, the better option. Because then you don't have to wait an entire week. And after an entire week, you're probably done the picture.
Critique timing subject to who's online.
Yeah. Don't just expect us to critique it on the Discord, I mean.
Every second.
I occasionally do like sleep. It is one of my hobbies. I try to partake every night.
Nah. What? Also,
I have a love-hate relationship with sleeping. I'm like, I don't want to sleep. It's boring. And then I go to sleep and sleep for 14 hours.
That sounds like a thing you do, yeah.
We're all now in the cult. I love CPC's little doodles.
They are pretty dang good. All right, so I will talk to... Don't call me Zai. I'm...
What?
Insert lewd...
What?
Name...
Insert lewd name.
I'm Thorax.
Don't call me Zai, call me Fluffy Butt.
I'm gonna have to make that a card.
Fluffy Down Under.
Oh my god. Alright, end it.
And
End this
yeah,
plug.
we've gone off the deep end, guys. So long.